Recording in progress. All right. There. Okay. So once again, didn't work yesterday. And actually yesterday is pretty darn important too. But it fortunately continues on to today. So one can cover two. Yes. The big topic. Oh, we got a new vocab word, hyperbole, because hyperbole is an amazing part of language and it ties into metaphor, my previous word, because that's the magic of language. You could lose a football game, fine. But what if you want to tell a story about losing it? Well, you could say the other team was big. But if you were to say, oh my God, their offensive line, every single one of them was like 400 pounds. Well, now you're weaving a tale. You don't want to overdo it, but that's the power of hyperbole. Hyperbole gives our language a bit of a pop. And that's really important because you want your language to pop. I mean, as a teacher, I kind of make my living on bizarre hyperbole, metaphor, exaggeration of all kinds. That's what I do. I'm an anecdotal teacher, which means I tell stories. I can't just say, there was once a guy who did this. No, pop, 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 pop. Next. The reading that we did was a little piece called The Geek Shall Inherit the Earth. And the writer, Alexandra Robbins, she's brilliant. She's amazing, I'm sure. I don't know who she is. I've only ever read this piece right here. I actually need to see if she ever made a podcast or anything. But the first part of it is actually really difficult for my students to understand. You have a tough time reading it. It happens. However, the closing bit is because it establishes an idea that I absolutely must have my students know. And yes, I use a horrible example. I mention the word that you're never supposed to say. Well, there's a bunch of words, but this is a not inappropriate word that you're still never supposed to say, especially since I'm putting this on YouTube. It's the word YouTube doesn't allow you to say. But the article is about Quirk Theory, and it says the skills that make you awesome in high school, like being athletic and popularity, those things that are important in high school don't always translate to real life. And this is insanely important because, like, this is one of my, I get fired up about everything because that's kind of my shtick. But a lot of people leave high school and then they're miserable. They're miserable because they, A, peaked in high school and they think this is as good as it's going to get. And they go from being a big fish in a tiny little pond because our school has like 8 people in it. And so they go from here and they're like, I am one of the coolest 8 people in the world. And then they go out into the larger world and it turns out there's like 8 billion people instead of just eight. I actually don't know how many people are in the world anymore. I used to know. It used to be 6 billion. But I haven't thought about it in a long time. This is confession time. I don't know. But let's go for the story of eight. So you're one of the coolest people in a tiny school, but then you go out in the world and no one cares that you scored a winning touchdown your junior year because there's a whole bunch of people that did that. And in ancient times, when we used to live in small little areas, those little legacy moments continue on. But when there's all this interaction and all these people have accomplished things, it's hard to be the LeBron James of anything. So, yeah. Peak in high school, sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, what else is there? And you don't get that gratification, that respect, that honor that you once got, and it can be tough. Be aware of Quirk Theory because Quirk Theory will clearly tell you Scoring that touchdown is awesome when you're a junior because all these people are like, yay, you, yay. But it doesn't matter after that. The other big reason is for the kid in the stands who will not only never score a touchdown, will never go out for a sport because they're nerdy. They're a band kid. They're a forensics kid. Are you making fun? I'm the forensics coach. No, I'm not making fun. And one of the perks of forensics, I teach you how to compete in a job interview. Like, that's pretty big. In a job interview, you can use the skills of forensics, which isn't really high credit at a school. Like, even if you compete really well in forensics, you're not going to be able to like go up to some girl and be like, hey, baby girl. Imagine I kicked my leg up. I mean, I did, but it's not on camera. I just got a silver medal at the meet at this school in original oration. What? Go away. Pepper spray. But the the thing we're going for here is that in forensics, that skill that you learn that isn't going to get you any cred can make you really awesome in life. Now, it's not to say football can't do that, but the tangible things you learn in football are not really things that are awesome. But the toughness, the sticking through it, yeah, yeah, those are handy things to have. But we don't acknowledge those things as much in high school. Uh, Quirk theory, again, important to know, you might have a very rough 7 years of middle school and high school because your skills don't work here. They're not attractive. They're not social. They're not engaging. But once you leave here, those same things that made you nerdy or, oh my God, what do you do? Just do homework all the time? Well, that's going to pay off really well as a lawyer because, yeah, you do your research because that's what you did in school. You researched, you looked up stuff, you were a curious person. That's going to pay off big time. What if you don't know this? You leave high school thinking that's what life is. And that would be terrible. And that's why people sometimes go bad places. Now, to make the point, I made use of two music videos. The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. Does that video have people in their underwear? There's nothing inappropriate. It's a metaphor, which I also point out as well. When you're socially nervous, sometimes you'll be told, imagine everyone in their underwear. But the point of the tale, and the reason why I'm going to show it is because my students need to know it. You're in the middle, you're just starting. You're like, don't worry if 4 years stinks because you got a whole bunch of time after high school, like an insane amount of time. Keep rolling. The next one I covered is All Star. Yeah, they're both from pretty much the same era, too. Speaking of which, I left my projector on. But yeah, these are things that pretty important to teach. All right, that's all. I mean, that's all I was that was a lot. And I also had to fill out a little note about things that make you awesome in high school, and then on the back, things that make you awesome in real life. And even ninth graders, they got it right. Because being awesome in a sport in high school, being the funniest guy in the room is awesome. But if you're a paramedic and your key ability is humor, humor's amazing. Well, what if that's your key skill? Uh-oh. I'd rather you were really good at chest compressions. All right. Tip of the hat. Bye.